George, pages 28 through 30. The shot heard round the world. British General Thomas Gage had been trying hard to keep the peace in Massachusetts, but he was ordered, in the name of the king, to use more force. In April 1775, a spy in Boston warned Gage that colonial troublemakers were stashing big piles of ammunition in nearby Concord. This was bad news. A bloody war could break out. Gage decided that the British Army had better go seize John Hancock and Sam Adams, two rebel leaders who were hiding out in Lexington. Then they should burn the weapons in Concord before people started getting themselves killed. Gage quickly planned a secret raid. A British regiment shivered through a chilly night rowing and then wading across the Charles River. On the morning of April 19, the soldiers had marched as far as Lexington when they came across about 70 Patriots militia gathered on the village green. The rebels were armed because rebel spies William Days and Paul Revere had spread the alarm that the British were on their way. Lexington. Everybody's nerves were on edge. Still holding their weapons, the Patriots began to back away and look for cover. Then someone fired a shot. Nobody knows who, but as soon as they heard it, the British soldiers started shooting. 8 Americans were killed and 10 more were wounded. Not everyone realized it at the time, but the Revolutionary War had just begun. John Hancock and Sam Adams had disappeared. The redcoats marched on to Concord to destroy the ammunition, but most of the ammunition had vanished too. Meanwhile, great multitudes of men from farms and villages all over the countryside gathered to fight back. Each side told a different tale about Lexington and Concord. Rebel newspapers reported that bloodthirsty redcoats burned houses, drove naked women into the streets, and butchered old men and infants. The king was told that rebel savages broke the rules of war by ambushing his army. Then they scalped fallen British infantry and cut off their ears. George Washington was already famous for his fearless leadership when he had fought alongside the British 20 years earlier. On June 15, 1775, the Second Continental Congress gathered in Philadelphia and unanimously elected the 43-year-old Virginian to become commander-in-chief of their newly formed Continental Army. But how could a small, poorly trained army with almost no money defeat one of the world's most awesome military powers? Washington refused to accept any salary, asking only that Congress pay his expenses. The very next morning, long before Washington took command of his troops, the redcoats back in Massachusetts awoke to discover an amazing sight. In just one night, about 1,200 rebels had secretly built a massive fort atop Breed's Hill by Charleston. Both sides fought fiercely until the rebels finally ran out of powder and ammunition. The rebels ended up losing the hill, but the British lost 92 officers, more than half their men, and more than twice as many soldiers as the rebels lost. Some say that the rebels' original plan was to occupy Bunker Hill, which was higher and easier to defend. This fight came to be known as the Battle of Bunker Hill.